watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and after a bit of a hiatus, I am back tonight, and I am very excited to do this show with you. And I guess my guest tonight is a very learned, well-researched human, and he spends a lot of his time researching stuff so that when we share or he shares anything with us, you can believe it's the truth because he has the evidence to support what he's saying. And if you question anything you hear tonight, I will have his tag on the bottom of this video. Please feel free to reach out to him. He's no stranger to my show, and his name is Sean, and he's one of my favorite people because he's not afraid to tell the truth that he has put many, many hours of research into. And tonight, in light of all the craziness going on in the world, we are going to focus on the bridge that quote unquote accidentally crashed because it was hit by a ship this week. And I will turn this portion of the interview over to Sean because he's the expert on the topic. I saw a video he did and I wanted to share the information with my viewers. Sean, welcome back.
Hey, Jenny. Good to connect with you again. Still lots of crazy things happening in the world.
Can't keep up. My head is spinning.
Yeah, very hard to keep up.
So here's one thing before you get started. Some people are saying not to focus on this stuff, not to look at it, to ignore it, not to watch the news, not to pay attention. And for me, that's what we've done our entire lifetime. And this is why we're in this place now where we've been lied to, manipulated, used, abused. And now that so many of us are waking up, we are getting the backlash. But if we don't wake up, a lot of us will disappear off this planet tragically because of all of what's planned. So Sean, tell us what you think happened with the bridge. And by the way, it was in, I'm blanking on the state. Where was it? In
Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, yes, the bridge in Baltimore. So tell us about it, what you found out.
Okay, well, it's the Francisscottkeybridge. Francis Scott Key wrote Star Spangled Banner, and this is an area where a lot of importing and exporting happens with huge ships that bring in shipping containers. You know, it's our supply chain. It's like part of the key infrastructure of our supply chain. And at first, everyone that saw the videos of this happening started sharing everywhere, like, one of the big ships with all the shipping containers on it crashed into the bridge, and then the whole bridge collapsed. Right. But then other people started analyzing the footage of it, and one of the people that I actually know just from TikTok, she goes by Be Free with Bree. She has a video where she zooms in and slow-mos it, but there's little. It looks almost as if there was detonations that went off at certain points that made the entire thing collapse all at once, because that's a huge bridge, and the boat just hit one little tiny part. And from what it looks like, it was just like what they did with the 9/11 World Trade Centers. They rigged that thing with explosives, and then they claimed, some planes crashed into it. But if you look at the footage of the things when they collapsed, there's all these detonations that go off. And then the third building collapsed completely, and they didn't even say a plane hit it. How does that happen? So I think it's the same thing. You know, it's just the rinse and repeat stuff they do. They destroy critical infrastructure points. They blame it on a plane. They blame it on terrorists. They say, a boat ran into it. I think they planned this a long time ago. They rigged it with explosives, and then had this boat run into it. Who knows if there might be some other ulterior motives behind it. Who knows what was in those shipping containers I've seen a lot of stuff and read a lot of stuff about shipping containers being used to transport children to be trafficked. So who knows if there was something like that involved. I'm not sure. But it just seems like the rinse and repeat stuff that these Nephilim bloodline, Illuminati, deep state cabal, whatever you want to call them, it just seems like the rinse and repeat stuff that they've always done. They blow stuff up, they kill a bunch of people along with it. They blame it on something. A plane hit it, a boat ran into it. Oh, it was terrorists. But they plan it all out. It's the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. There's also a bunch of articles about them planning to turn Baltimore, the same exact area where the bridge was destroyed, turning it into drum roll, please, a 15-minute smart city.
Like
just
Maui, right? Like Maui.
Yeah, just like Maui, they use the direct energy weapons, they blow up the infrastructure, and then they rebuild it with their enslavement infrastructure. Because really, that's what they do, and it's the same thing they've been doing for like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Whether it be, blowing up the World Trade Center, or blowing up a bridge, or direct energy weaponing an entire city, or carpet bombing via the U.S. military and all their weapons technology, sending troops to Iraq, blowing everything up. Look what's happening in the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, whatever it is, you name it. They just blow shit up, rebuild it with central banks so that they can enslave people. They rebuild it with a smart city. They rebuild it with something that gives them more and more control and more power. And at the same time, I think they're just trying to cause as much chaos and disruption as possible, taking out a bridge that's very key to our supply chain is also going to create more scarcity and more disruptions, which is going to disempower people and also spread fear and keep people in a lower vibration. And this goes back to what you were saying about how a lot of people are saying, oh, don't pay attention, don't pay attention. Very bad advice, whoever's saying that. What you don't know and what you don't pay attention to will be used against you and could potentially kill you. Now, what I do advise is don't allow these things to lower your vibration and live in fear. Be aware of it. If it's a threat, pay attention to it, but don't allow it to lower your vibration so much that you live in fear, because that is part of their goal and their agenda, is to keep human consciousness collectively in a low vibration. When you're in a low vibration, your pineal gland does not work as well. Your intuition does not work as well. You do not have your connection to source energy optimized and fully functional when you're in a low vibration. And that's ultimately what they're trying to do at the same time, is keep you in a low vibration and keep you disconnected from the God consciousness, the conscious energy of the universe that flows through all of us and that's incarnated into our body through our pineal glands. We are all very, very powerful when we're optimized and functioning at our highest level, our high vibrations. So all these things that they do, disrupting the supply chain, all this stuff is to just create chaos and keep everyone in a low vibration.
The computer just froze. I have to tell you, it only freezes when I'm interviewing you and Heather. Anyway, it's okay. Sean, another thing I wanted to tell you is back when 9/11 happened, I was in Trinidad. I was at a party. I have a friend there who's a lawyer. She had me and a judge. And she had this party with all these really educated people there. And I was speaking with someone who is an engineer from New York, who just happened to be at this party in Trinidad. And he was telling me that 9/11, that our government did it. And I looked at him like, you are out there, you are nuts. And I found myself arguing with him, and then I stopped because I thought, I'm not going to argue with ignorance. And it turns out I was the ignorant one. And so for me, as I'm learning, because I'm up late at night like you, researching stuff. And the more I find out, when I share it, first of all, I stopped sharing a lot because people are too far still asleep to get what I'm finding out and what you and other people are proving to be true. So I stopped sharing with them because they're looking at me like I've gone off the deep end, like somehow I've gone down the rabbit hole. So I'm very careful what I share. And there's a part of me that's very sad because they are not going to be able to protect themselves because they continue to be in denial. Okay? But it's not my job to convince people either way. I'm going to protect me and those closest to me, like my family, if I can. So, Sean, one of the things I found out today in preparation for this interview is they found that black box that's on every ship and airplane, but the 2 minutes right before the collision is gone. Did you hear this?
Well, isn't that suspicious? I didn't hear anything about that, but I mean,
No,
that sounds pretty typical
no,
of the
I
kind of stuff
watched
they
a
do.
few people today reporting that they found it, but for some reason it was confiscated immediately, and those 2 minutes right before it collided, it's no longer on the black box. It's been removed. So when you hear these stories, then one and one makes two, and the dots connect, and but there's still people that believe this is an accident. So I want to turn the rest of this interview over to you because you did a great video that I watched this morning, and I'd like to share as much of it as I can with my viewers because I really think people should wake up.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of these engineered attacks, I mean, like they typically serve multiple agendas. I mean, I just gave you a big list of the agendas in the last when I was speaking before, but one of the other things that is happening simultaneously is there's a famous rapper, P. Diddy. They found that he was running a massive human trafficking operation out of his $40 million mansion. So, as that's happening, this whole bridge thing is happening. So, I mean, there's always that potential that they might use something like, oh, this bridge blew up to start distracting people from another famous celebrity found out to be part of a massive human trafficking operation. So, it's just one thing after another now, and nothing really surprises me anymore. Based off their historical track record, there's nothing that they will not do to kill people and suppress your consciousness and lie to you and distract you. Like they will do anything. So just be prepared for potentially more stuff like this to happen.
Another thing I noticed today is someone commented, a very well-respected journalist that I follow on here, commented that this is the other reason why they're trying so desperately to shut TikTok down, because it's on TikTok. It's probably one of the few platforms where as many people are publishing the research they're doing that is really showing what's really going on in the world, what's gone on for thousands of years. And because the only source of information we had was governed by them, the powers that were, we were oblivious. Now, thank God for the internet, because of the internet, now we have access to information that we were not privy to before. But do you see how desperately they're trying to take that away from us as well? It's like anything that will help us and keep us informed, they want to abolish. Do you think they're going to succeed in shutting down TikTok?
So my opinion on whether or not they're going to succeed at shutting down TikTok, I don't think they can fully shut it down. But what they can do is remove it from being able to be downloaded from the app stores, like the App Store and the Google Play Store. They can pull it off the App Store. They could even potentially try to ban United States IP addresses from accessing the TikTok URL. But then everyone who's already got it downloaded still has it. And anyone who wants to get it downloaded, they just switch their IP address and then download it from the site. Or you can use you can use TikTok from your desktop also, just by logging into the URL. So they might try, but it's pretty difficult to do that, especially because TikTok is spread across so many jurisdictions that it's kind of like, the way I see it is kind of like trying to ban stuff like applications and things on the internet. It's kind of like how they tried to ban marijuana. How well did that work? It's kind of like how the government's all tried to, so many governments, they try to ban Bitcoin. How well did that work? You know, so
I
that's just my opinion on it. They'll try. They might to an extent be able to make it a little more difficult for the average person to get on there, but there's always going to be a way around it.
I'm slightly depressed because as a journalist, I have to do the research. I have to do my homework. Otherwise, I am out of the loop, and then I don't have anything to share with my viewers in terms of the current affairs. And I have to tell you, I'm depressed because the royal family, a lot of the government officials, Hollywood. I mean, I've changed the name to Holly Weird, as many have, because it's like, how could we have been so deceived by all of these people that we have respected and held in high esteem for such? Like, I am grateful that I am one of the people who is still here on the earth while people are waking up. Think of all those people you and I know who've already died believing all that we were raised to believe. And I know that some of the people attacking you, based on what I see, it's because you're crumbling you're you're crashing their belief systems. You're injecting it with a little bit of truth and reality. And every time they attack you, you come back with the facts. Do you feel that you're converting a lot of them? Because I'm not able to follow your channel as much as I want to, but do you feel like people are waking up to the truth and they're seeing the truth now?
So convert, I'm not sure if that's the right word, just because it sounds like I'm trying to convert them into a religion or something, or
No,
into
no,
some
right.
kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
Maybe.
I'm not necessarily trying to convert anyone into any kind of religion or anything like that. I'm just trying to wake people up
Right.
to the fact that we are in a war. This is a world conflict, and these things are happening. So I'm just trying to wake people up so that they can empower themselves. I'm not just trying to convert them into any kind of ideology,
Sorry, I used
but
the
I do.
wrong word.
Yeah, I do believe that a certain percentage of people that come across me might wake up a little bit, or at least start questioning things. But yeah, I'm not sure how many of them. I mean, I know some of them. Like, some people like message me and they're like, hey, like, you really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And then other people are like cursing at me and threatening me and telling me I'm the devil and I'm demon possessed and I'm the antichrist and all this stuff. And it's very funny. It's just an emotional reaction that they get, because when someone comes and almost, it's like ripping their identity from them, because when they were born, their parents and the government, they gave them a name, they gave them a religion, they gave them this identity that they've grown emotionally attached to and been reinforcing for decades and decades. Some of them have based their eternity on it. Some of them have based their family's eternity on it, and they've continuously practiced rituals to reinforce this foundation. They get baptized. It's like they put a brick in their foundation. They say the prayer, I accept Jesus into my heart. They put a brick in their foundation. They sing the Star Spangled Banner. That's another brick. They pledge their allegiance. That's another brick. They put a flag in there. There's another brick. And they're doing all these rituals and they're building this foundation. And then I just come along and in one swoop, I just take a sledgehammer to it and shatter it. And I rip their
Exactly.
identity from them. And they get very defensive because they're attacked. They're like, so they get emotionally triggered, and that usually causes them to lash out in anger by threatening me or name calling me, or saying something silly, or repeating some of the funny little slangs and slogans that they've been mindlessly repeating since Bible school taught them about it, or since the government indoctrinated them with it in the public education system, which is just a big church, by the way. Public schools are just churches for the religion of statism. But that's kind of what's happening. Is like some people have messaged me and said, hey, you really opened my eyes to a lot of things. Other people just want to attack me. So,
Well, I know this is not the topic that we got together to discuss tonight, but I feel like it all lends to what is happening on the planet right now. I keep on asking, why aren't other people Well, I hope other people are asking this question, but no one I know is asking it. And the question is, we live in a country that used to be the superpower. Why do we only have two geriatric candidates to run as the leaders of this country? Why are those the only two candidates? I don't understand. Both of these gentlemen, no disrespect, I'm also an elderly person. Why are there the two? Why don't we have two young candidates who are, informed and who still got health and life ahead of them? I'm confused as to why everybody seems okay with just these two people. And I have an idea, but I'm not going to express it here because I don't want them to come from my jugular.
I think it's the illusion of choice, and it's also people who still have faith in the religion of statism. Like everything that people perceive as normal that's actually enslaving them, it's actually a big faith-based religion that people have grown emotionally attached to. It's called Stockholm syndrome. It's when you develop a psychological bond with your enslaver. And it's all faith-based and in a combination with Stockholm syndrome. So people vote because they have faith that the voting system is genuine and authentic. It's not. It's all rigged. People deposit money into their bank because they have faith that the bank's going to let them withdraw their money. People take cash to the grocery store because they have faith that when they hand the grocer and the cashier the cash, they're going to let them walk out with the groceries. People pay taxes because they have faith that the government is going to do something good with the tax money. It's all a faith-based religion. People sing the Star Spangled Banner and pledge their allegiance because they have faith in the government. People that do that literally are worshiping the government as if the government is God. It's all rituals. It's all a religion. It's all faith-based. As people's faith begins to crumble, as people lose faith in the dollar, as people lose faith in the voting system and just stop participating altogether, that's when these evil entities are really going to lose their power. When people stop using the dollar, they pull all their cash out of the bank and stop transacting in dollars. They go back to gold, silver, even cryptocurrencies, decentralized cryptocurrencies. When people stop paying taxes, when people stop voting, when people stop paying their mortgages and allowing themselves to get ripped off by the interest rates that the banks charge. When people stop doing all that stuff, the whole system loses its power. This is why the BRICS nations are coming together to de-dollarize. The BRICS nations understand exactly what I'm talking about. They're coming together to de-dollarize and take power away from these entities.
Have you seen that the Chinese and I think the Russians are no longer going to be working with our money? I mean, it's getting really scary. I don't know if you saw that, but I saw that yesterday in one of the news articles that I read. And here's what I think the problem is, Sean. A large percentage of Americans only watch mainstream media. And because they only watch mainstream media, they've been brainwashed into believing something is wrong with TikTok. These people are on Facebook, and Mark Zuckerberg was charged with selling their information. But they're still there because mainstream media is promoting his network, right? Because he's invested money in the system, right? So the system has to work for him. Now, these people are only watching the mainstream. They don't get to come on this platform that we just discussed, TikTok, which is where a lot of us are able to share our research. And so how are we going to change? They believe that when they vote, the person they see campaigning, if the one they're voting for, they don't see these are wings of the same bird. It doesn't matter who they elect. They've already got the person who's going to sit in that seat and be the puppet already elected. They already know who that's going to be. And I question if the votes even ever matter, or if we just going through the going through the motions because it's what we're supposed to do. Because you and I both know that the person who is going to sit there is the person who's going to be willing to follow the rules from above. And I'm not talking heaven or what people call heaven. And so how are we going to get people to wake up? Because the majority of people are watching the lies every day, the misinformation, the propaganda. And that's what they call what you get on TikTok. And so this is something that concerns me because I feel that we're only going to have some type of change on the planet when a lot of people wake up. But if the majority of the people are still circling in the systems that are not serving them, how are we going to change what's happening?
Well, in my opinion, I don't think everyone's going to wake up. And I don't expect to be someone that's like trying to wake everyone up. I'm just putting the information out there for the people that are ready to hear it.
Yes.
And then I think what will happen is the right people will hear it. The people that aren't ready to wake up will just get enslaved or democided by the government or genocided by some eugenics program. And then, the people that were meant to survive it will use their intelligence to figure out how to do it and form communities and break away. There's probably going to be pockets of resistance, as they try to roll out all these systems of enslavement. But I mean, I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to play out. I don't know how successful they're going to be at this whole agenda to control and enslave the whole world, because there's so many people now that are already awake because of TikTok that it's almost like the cat's out of the bag. The toothpaste has already been squeezed out of the bottle. You can't put it back in. And at some point, there might be some kind of like critical mass where if enough people wake up, then we can turn the ship around. So there's a couple things that need to happen. First, the whole propaganda machine, mainstream media, that all needs to be eradicated. And the US dollar has to go into hyperinflation. That has to get thrown out the window. The US dollar has to go away. And then the awakened ones, some people call them volunteers, some people call them star seeds. I don't like the word star seed, but for lack of a better word, because people recognize it. The volunteers, the star seeds, need to become the new billionaires and trillionaires, because right now it's about 13 families that are all the billionaires and the trillionaires. And because they wield this power of being a billionaire or a trillionaire, they control everything. I mean, the entire United States is owned by like just a couple hedge funds, BlackRock hedge funds, Larry Fink, the main guy at BlackRock hedge funds, State Street, Vanguard. They own everything. They hold almost all the shares in the entire stock market. They own almost all the corporations. They own and control all the politicians, for mostly, but they own everything. So we're going to have to figure out how to become the new billionaires and trillionaires, because then we can have an impact, or a more significant impact. I mean, the impact we have on TikTok is significant, but it's not going to do the same as being a billionaire or a trillionaire. When you're a billionaire or a trillionaire, you can hire an entire army to do your bidding for you. And that's what these 13 families have been doing, is they have entire armies that do their bidding for them. When you have an entire army, you can actually get shit done very, very quickly. But these are the dynamics at play, is they're going to continue to try to confiscate wealth. They're going to continue to try to confiscate power and systematically impoverish everyone as much as they can. This is how they always, this is how they always have the upper hand. Yep.
When you go to the grocery store, I always wonder how people with a lot of children are managing. I mean, seriously. And our government has taken all of our money in fighting unnecessary wars. And there's so many of us here who have no benefits. and we work really hard, and they take the majority of our paychecks. I know I'm one of those people that's still doing this, but a lot of us sit around and we see the problem. We've identified the problem. On most platforms now, you could see people talking about it. What I want to know is, what are we going to do, how and when? So it's one thing to recognize the problem, but then we have to do something about it. Otherwise, it just depresses me and makes me angry that this is still happening.
I do have the answer, but again, this is one of the things, like, some people that actually want it bad enough will be willing to put in the work. A lot of other people just won't do it because they're still comfortable. They won't do it until they really get knocked out of their comfort zone. But revoke your citizenship, get everything out of your name. Go set up a pure contract irrevocable trust as a separate legal entity. Open up all your bank accounts in the separate legal entity under the trust of the name with an EIN number, not your social security number. Everything that you own that is an asset, like your automobile, go to the DMV with your trust, transfer it out of your name into the trust. Transfer ownership of your house out of your name into your trust. As you're going through the process of revoking your citizenship, you can also send letters to Congress about what the tax laws really are. If you go on the internet, type in Freedom Law School and go start watching all the videos on Freedom Law School. He's going to teach you, the founder of Freedom Law School, his name's Paymon. He's going to teach you the truth about taxes, that there's no law that says you have to pay taxes. Taxation is a fraud. The IRS is just a corporation that's based out of Puerto Rico. They're just a for-profit corporation based out of Puerto Rico. They're a scam. So there's no law that says you have to pay taxes. What's that?
Haven't people been in prison for not paying taxes?
Yes.
So
But
you see, this is why
again, and Paymon will teach you about this. Again, the court system is corrupt. And it's also because people sign their name on the tax form. When you sign your name on the tax form, there's a little part of it that says under penalty of perjury. And also, if you claimed a U.S. citizen on your passport application, they use that against you. So if they don't have, see, everything is, all the corruption is done by the people's own consent, by signing your name. When people sign their name on all the everything, their driver's license signature, your tax forms, all of it, the birth certificate, the signature on the birth certificate, all of this stuff puts you in their jurisdiction and puts you into the system of enslavement. So people need to learn how to terminate these contracts and how to defend their rights. And they need to learn how the legal system works and start reversing these contracts, changing your status, doing the status corrections. There's other forms and things you fill out. The revocation of election is another one. There's a bunch of different ones. This is like a whole nother topic, but it's basically just paperwork that you fill out, and you can disconnect from the government. I'm not an expert on this. I know a little bit about it. I've just started learning it, but there's other people out there that are way more expert than I am at learning how to disconnect from the government using the legal systems. But it's, for the most part, all of the things, the bad things that happen to people is done by their own consent, only because they are ignorant to the games that are being played. The other things people need to do is get out of big cities, get more off grid, get more on the outskirts, become self-sufficient. Don't rely on the state for your water. Don't rely on the state for your electricity. Don't rely on the state for anything. The more you rely on the state, because the state is the matrix, the more you rely on the state, the more power they will have over you. And they're trying to make it so that we have to rely on them for everything. That's why they're going after the farmers in Oregon. The state is using satellites to identify where just family farms and private farms are located, and sending them cease and desist orders saying that, oh, you're using too much water. There's a water shortage. You have to shut. So these are the kind of things that they do. And again, like most people, they think they don't even own their land. They don't even own their home. The state owns their home and their land. Go look on when you pay your taxes, your property taxes, you're actually listed as a tenant. A tenant is a renter, not an owner. So there's things that you can do, like get a land patent and a grant deed. Put your home and your land in an irrevocable trust out of your name, because when it's in your name, it's the all capital letters name, which is the legal fiction, the straw man, the corporation. And in the court systems, they're actually going after your legal fiction, the all capital letters name. So you need to learn how to disconnect from that and take your power back and not identify as the corporate fictional straw man entity, because that's really what they're going after. They're going after that straw man, which is a trust, the Cesta QV trust, which is, again, these are things that are created when your parents sign the birth certificate and create your citizenship. They're going after your straw man, and they trick you into identifying as the straw man. But it's all done through coercion and the manipulation of language and contracts that the state gets you to sign your name onto. And once you sign your name, now they got you in their jurisdiction. So don't sign birth certificates. Don't become a citizen. Don't sign don't sign the tax forms and things like that. Don't sign any of that stuff, because what you're doing is you're contracting into their jurisdiction so that they can have an excuse to come after you. Every time you sign your name on these things, it's like hanging a noose around your neck. So people need to learn how to disconnect from the system and start your own economy, start your own civilizations, become self-reliant and self-sustainable without the state, without the government. Get everything out of your name.
The thing is, people are afraid because if you don't conform, then they make life very difficult for you, like children getting into schools. I mean, it's such a foreign concept, although that's what people need to do. They have mastered the art of getting people to comply. You're almost forced into compliance. But if you have to deviate from what's been known as the norm, as you are speaking, I'm thinking from my perspective, if I have to do all this, it just seems to complicate everything and makes life like traveling. Then you can't get back into the country, or you can't get into certain countries. It's just so complicated because they have it all set up so that you are forced to be a part of the grid, part of the matrix.
Well, after you revoke your citizenship, you can still get non-citizen passports. When the barcode scans, it's different than a citizen. So there's different ways to fill out the passport application that give you a certain amount of diplomatic immunity, where your barcode scans differently, different information shows up. So you can still do everything that you can do. You can still open bank accounts. You can still do stuff like that. But there's certain steps you can take to where you start disconnecting yourself from the system. And again, the reason it's like this is because this is the mark of the beast that it talks about in the book of Revelation, where you cannot buy or sell without the mark. Well, good luck trying to buy or sell anything if you don't have a social security number. You can't open a bank account. You can't even rent an apartment if you don't have one. The mark of the beast is a system, and it's been around already for like 100 years or more since they started, doing these things like the Cesta QV Trust Act of 1666 and the birth certificates and the social security numbers. This is the mark of the beast.
Well,
you've been in it your whole life.
Right.
So learning how to disconnect from this system is going to be, part of your journey of regaining your freedom and your sovereignty. And it's not for everyone because it requires work. It requires dedication. It requires resources. It requires money. And most people, some people just don't have the motivation to do it. So again, it's not for everyone, but for some people, they really want their freedom, and they'll put in the effort to learn these things that I teach.
I'm someone who lives a lot in my head, unfortunately. So when I do all the research that I've done, what I find myself trying to do is come up with solutions that are doable for the average person. Because what you've described, it's brilliant, but it's so complicated for most people. Most people struggle with even speaking English properly. So could you see them having to disengage from the matrix to try and do all of this to protect themselves? It would prove challenging, and a lot of them would just throw the towel in and say, look, it's just easier to remain in status quo. So one of the things I've been praying for, and when I say praying, is putting my energy towards, is watching it, the powers that are running the world I'm watching to see it crumbling from the top, because I think that's when we were really, and it is happening right now. Like we saw what happened this week while PDD was, this whole fiasco was going on with him and his place being raided. That ship crashed into the bridge, right? It's a lot of synchronicities. I do not believe it's coincidence. And we both know that that was an orchestrated event, another one with an agenda like you discussed earlier. So I think the one thing we have to hope for is to watch the top crumble, because I think once they have lost their power, then things will just automatically transcend into a more peaceful and fair existence here on the planet. Am I being too ambitious to believe this?
I mean, I agree with you completely that once these entities lose their power, and once people lose faith in the religion, then yes, like we can just recreate the Earth world in a way that is abundant. And I mean, it's not going to be perfect. There's still probably going to be bad people here and there and bad things that happen, but we could make it 100 times better of a place just by people stop believing in the religion of statism and stop believing that the government is God and stop participating in the statist rituals. I mean, if people stopped using the dollar and just started using a privacy cryptocurrency like Monero, the whole world would be like a million times better, because all the wars would be gone. There'd be no war because they use the dollar to finance the wars. Well, if we stop using the dollar and everyone starts using privacy coins like Monero, or Diro, or any of the privacy coins where you can self-custody and have financial privacy, all the world wars would stop. I mean, yeah, there might be some like gangs and stuff here and there, but nothing on the level of a government and a state and a military industrial complex extracting and stealing trillions and trillions of dollars and then blowing up infrastructure and then blowing up an entire country. Like, that's insane.
And then blaming it on other people. You heard Putin, I don't
Yeah.
know, I think you saw the interview with Putin and Tucker, where Putin was saying, we blew up that. We do a lot of these things, and then they come through the mainstream propaganda and then blame it on other people, which infuriates the nation and creates hostility toward innocent people, like you say. But it is so freaking wrong. And I'm so tired of watching it. Every time they get away with it, I am so infuriated because people aren't seeing it. They're not willing to accept this is what's going on. And here's what I would like to say to people, because they may look at me and go, who the hell is Jennylyn Cleave? She's just blowing hot air. Most of them have probably never heard of you if they weren't on TikTok. So to them, we're just blowing hot air and talking nonsense. But here's a point that I'd like to make that I hope people will pay attention to. The few very famous journalists that they're familiar with have all been canceled because they went against the grain. They went against the mainstream script, right? There's Candace Owen. She just got canceled. And she's one of us speaking the truth. There is Tucker. There's Russell Brand. Look at all of these people that they work so hard to cancel or have canceled. They're spreading the same messages we are, trying to wake people up. I mean, you could be out tonight having a great time with your friends. I could be watching a movie, which is what I do, or working. But we are doing this, and it's because we care about our humankind. We care about other people, and we have nothing to gain from this, only to hope that while we are on the planet, and I'm being presumptuous and speaking on your behalf, John, but I think we all want the same thing. We want to see a better world. We want to see people treated fairly, and we would like the enslavement to government, religion, politics. We want it to stop, because we haven't come to the planet to be slaves to any higher powers. And so I just wanted to leave that out there with people who are having a difficult time believing what we're saying. Just look at that. Look at, why are they canceling these journalists?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, just do your own research on this. Don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything Jenny says. Because if you blindly believe what I say, you're just an NPC robot. That's what NPC robots do. They blindly accept information without questioning it, and figuring out where it came from. But question things. Ask the most fundamental questions: who, what, where, when, why, how, in that order. If you just systematically questioned all the data that came to you before accepting it as truth, and you're like, well, wait a minute, who, what, where, when, how, you discover those answers in that order, and then you're going to figure out that it's all almost everything that's being presented to you on mainstream media is lies and deceit. It's either a psyop to psychologically manipulate you, or it's there to distract you from something important.
And a lot of people that are watching my show probably don't go on TikTok. So could you tell them what an NPC robot is? You may have said it in a previous show, but let's mention it here tonight so they could keep in context what we're trying to say.
An NPC robot the NPC stands for non-playable character, and the term originated in the video game world. So when you're playing video games, you have the main character that you control, but then there's other characters in the video game that are programmed by the video game developers. Those are called non-playable characters. Well, the non-playable character also exists in your everyday life. The people that work at the grocery store, the police, or most of them are NPC robots. Most of the people that join the army are NPC robots. The people that are like the bank tellers, most of them are NPC robots. People that work at like H&R Block, they're all NPC robots. They're just mindlessly regurgitating and repeating what the Matrix taught them how to do. And the NPC robots are people that believe and support whatever thing the mainstream propaganda machine is trying to get people to support. And I'll give you an example of this. In the year 2020, the mainstream propaganda machine in the state orchestrated a fake pandemic called COVID-19, which is fake. It's not even a real virus. It doesn't exist. But all the people that blindly believed in it and wore those stupid, ridiculous face diapers and injected themselves and stayed home and shut down their business because the government told them to and the mainstream media told them to, those are NPC robots. The people that prayed for Ukraine because the mainstream media told them to are NPC robots. The people that prayed for Israel because the mainstream media told them to, those are NPC robots. If you're supporting whatever it is that the mainstream media is trying to get you to support, you would be defined as an NPC robot. So be awake and aware of these games that they're being played, because if you continue to participate in this kind of behavior, people are going to look at you like a moron.
Well, unfortunately, I have some sadness, for example, for older people, like people in their late 70s. They sit around at night, have dinner, watch TV, and they are affected by what they hear. Some of them get depressed, and I've heard older people crying for some awful, god-awful person who is robbing them and doing horrible things to them. And it makes me sad because it's very difficult to change what they believe and what they've believed. And that television and whatever comes off that screen is what they've lived by their entire lives. So we know these types of people, it would be really difficult to change and to make them see how they've been lied to their entire lives. One of the things, Sean, that you have discussed in a previous show with me, it's where our government will do something that will hurt us, like take down this bridge, take down the building. Then they tell us on mainstream that it's some other country who's done it, or some ISIS or something, and get all these Americans riled up to the point where a lot of people think I'm Asian. Everywhere I go, people think I'm Asian. I am not Asian. I have no Asian blood. And during the big C that you talked about just now, people would just give me dirty looks because they thought I was from China. And I remember I was in another country with a girlfriend, and everywhere we walked, they kept going ching ping or something like that, but it was a reference to me being Chinese. And she said to me, put my sunglasses on. I don't want you getting killed because they're thinking you are Chinese because all these people were watching mainstream media and China was getting blamed for the big C. And so there was a lot of ignorance where they were just targeting Asian people. And this is what goes on in this world. It's sick. It is so sick and it hurts my heart and angers me so much. And this is why I am so passionate about people waking up to what's really going on. Because how many people have we hated throughout our lifetimes because we were lied to about awful things they're doing to us when the ones telling us they're doing it were the ones doing it. And so you had a name for this. You had a term for it. And I was trying to remember the other day, and I couldn't remember what you call this. It's where the government creates a disaster and then uses that disaster to go start a war with someone that's not necessary while they include us in the process because they've convinced us that whomever has done whatever.
That's called a Hegelian dialectic.
The Hegelian dialectic.
A Hegelian dialectic is problem, reaction, solution. The government creates the problem. They wait for the people to react. The reaction that they always want to get out of people is fear. And then the solution is whatever, it's going to be something that moves their agenda along forward. So, like, for example, this is how they got the Patriot Act passed, which is just a bill that was passed that took away people's freedoms and allowed the government more power and more control and stole more tax money from people. But the Hegelian dialectic, so remember, problem, reaction, solution. The problem, they blew up the World Trade Centers. The reaction, fear. The solution, we got to pass the Patriot Act. It's for your safety. Oh, we also got to invade the Middle East because there's some terrorists that wear towels around their heads. They're hiding in caves that, blew up that crashed a plane into the tower. That's a Hegelian dialectic. The government uses Hegelian dialectics over and over and over and over and over for thousands of years. The fake pandemic of 2020, that was a Hegelian dialectic. They created that problem. They waited for the people to react. Fear. Oh my God, I'm going to get sick. The solution, you got to stay home. You got to wear a face diaper. You got to inject yourself. You got to shut down your business. What happens when people shut down their business and stay home? They stop making money. Now their business is shut down. Their homes go into foreclosure, and the big banks and the hedge funds that own the world, guess what they get to do now? They get to consolidate wealth, consolidate small businesses, consolidate people's homes, and build their wealth and confiscate more power for themselves while disempowering everyone else. So they do this over and over and over and over again. Everything the government does is a Hegelian dialectic. Like, they've been using this rinse and repeat strategy over and over and over, and it works really, really well on stupid people. And they're going to continue to do it. The bridge thing is a Hegelian dialectic. There's always an agenda behind it. Even the direct energy weapons it's all Hegelian dialectics, all of it. So they're gonna keep doing this, and they're gonna blame it on something. They're gonna wait for people to react, and then this is how they gain support from the tax slaves to do the things that they want to do to enslave us. So they can't just go and take away a bunch of your freedoms and increase taxes and steal your money just because they feel like it. They have to have a reason. That's how the Hegelian dialectic comes into play.
And the thing is, even though you broke it down and it's still so clear, some people will still not believe this. I was reading today where I think it's one of the states, it might be, it's Arizona, it's one of those states, they're being told that they have a water shortage, and there's no water shortage. There is an agenda behind lying to the people there and telling them there's a water shortage. And there's talk of chemtrails in the skies that are meant to hurt us. The water has been contaminated. It's meant to hurt us. But people will not believe any of this because they believe people like us are just pushing conspiracies. And I don't know why we would want to do that. But my hope is by the end of this year, enough of these people that are doubting what we are sharing will see, because a lot of exposure is coming. It's already started. And I personally believe that P. Diddy was not raided to expose, but I feel his place was raided so that they could, and there are I've seen other journalists sharing the same view. It's my view, it's my opinion, and I think I'm still entitled to that they were screening through the evidence to protect people. And I believe that's what that raid was for. Because based on what I know, the powers that be run the armed forces, I'm told. They play a big part in controlling what the armed forces are doing, because even P. Diddy says he owned the police. I saw an interview where he said that. I didn't hear the words come out of his mouth, but people who heard were repeating it. And so when I heard this, my first thought was, why? I don't understand why they're doing it if they were supposed to be protecting him. And then I got that download that they're actually going to confiscate the bits and pieces that will incriminate the higher ups. But you know what? I think it will come out because God's in charge.
Yeah, I do believe a lot of stuff like that happens. Or like, let's say, for example, some people do start figuring out that, hey, there's like a human trafficking thing going on here. Just like what happened not too long ago with in that Jewish synagogue, how they found all these like underground tunnels in the synagogue, and they found like baby strollers and mattresses with like blood stains on them and weird stuff. And people were all freaking out, and then the police came and they're like, oh, okay, we're just gonna handle this. Don't worry, we're just gonna cement it and cave it in, and it's just gone. Okay, they just sweep it under the rug. It's like stuff like this happens. It's almost like, okay, now they got to put out a fire. It's like trying to put out a fire because they're trying to they always want to like sweep it under the rug, and sometimes something gets out, and I think it's like, okay, this thing got out. Yeah, they're gonna send in their police, because the police are all controlled. The police are NPC robots. They're order followers. They do what they're told most of the time. I'm not discrediting all police. There might be some exceptions, some intelligent ones, but for the most part, most of them are like the ultimate NPC robots. So they're just doing what they're told. They're following orders. They're order followers. So it's like when stuff like this happens, all of a sudden word starts getting out. It's like, holy shit, we got to send in our people and put out this fire before it gets too crazy. Yeah, okay, the cat's out of the bag with the human trafficking, but at least, we can get our people in there and dissolve as much of the evidence as possible, and still keep their people up at the higher ranks, hidden from the public on who's really pulling the strings behind this. Like, who financed P. Diddy? Who was he connected to? Like, that obviously it's almost like, okay, the word got out. Let's just use P. Diddy as the fall guy. He's going to take the fall for this one. Let's hide everything we can because we don't want, we don't want people following the money back to the higher ups. And then that's I think that a lot of stuff like that happens.
Yeah, young black guy at 28 has his own record label. And by the way, I'd like to go on record to say that Sean and I are not saying all the police and judges are corrupt. Clearly, not everyone is, but based on
there are some good, there's good people out there. I've had different encounters with different police officers. Some of them are very nice and actually did uphold their oath, because they all swore an oath to defend the Constitution. But I see it more often than not that police officers do not uphold their oath of office. They do not defend the Constitution. They're just out there trying to extort people to make money for the corporations that they work for.
No, you're right. And it's when you think about it, if you are someone who's naturally integral, and if you are someone who just believes in doing the right thing, as in following the laws and being and holding yourself accountable when you've done wrong, I feel that there's so few of people like that. And the more I live, the more I'm constantly disappointed by what I see and know, and people that I've held in high esteem and respected. But you know what? Before we go, because we're almost out of time, all of these people that are being named right now as part of all of what's coming out with P. Diddy were people that I never felt like I should respect or like them. I didn't want to say, but I didn't like them, and I didn't know why. There was just something. There was just something about them that was not resonating with me. And I knew there was more to what we saw than was being told about these people. So I'm not judging anyone, but we all have choice, right? And we have to deal with the consequences for our choices, although a lot of people have died without dealing with any consequences. So some people get away with stuff. At least in this lifetime, they still have to deal with their karma. So Sean, as
Well, you see,
always, huh?
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, even a lot of the police officers that were, really extorting people and violating their oath of office. I think I think it was Maricopa County. I think it was Arizona, but they all got served with a big lawsuit for
They did?
treason. Yeah,
Wow.
there's videos going viral on TikTok because typically they're a that's a foreign corporation. They're part of the British Crown. That's a foreign corporation, and that's treason to be aiding in a foreign corporation coming onto the republic and violating people's constitutional rights, conspiring with the foreign corporation is treason, and there's a big lawsuit going down right now. So, a lot of people are waking up,
I'm
and
so
a lot of
happy
people are
when I hear
they're
that.
all going to be held accountable because this awakening, it's not going to stop.
Right.
All the people hiding behind your high positions in governments and all that stuff, like it's going to get exposed because of TikTok and Instagram and Rumble and the decentralized social media platforms that will be coming onto the scene. There's decentralized social media platforms that cannot be censored because they're all the data is put on the blockchain and it's encrypted with military grade encryption that so far has never been able to be hacked or manipulated. And as we continue to move forward and this technology evolves, more and more of this stuff is going to come out, and more people are learning about the different corporations and foreign entities that have literally invaded the Americas as America as the constitutional republic. And I mean some of them are going to get hit with like treason. That's serious stuff. So
Well, good. I'm glad. People need to be held accountable. You shouldn't be able to buy your way through the crime world forever. You know what I mean? We need money, but you shouldn't be using it for those purposes. And that's just my humble opinion. I think one thing before we wrap, though, that I've noticed is this war in Gaza has almost forced people to wake up because they're seeing where all of our dollars are being dumped into this war in Gaza and also in Ukraine. And people are like, what the hell? We're starving here. And the Jewish people are enjoying a better life for more money. People are waking up. I'm watching the average person now complaining. So I think however it happens for people to wake up, the important thing is for us to wake up, for us all to wake up, so that we can unite and affect change that it has to do with taking the power of the world back by the light and letting the dark fade away into the dark. And like you said, it's not all going to fade, but it has to go because corruption and evil, no good. Not for me anyway. Sean, before we wrap, what do you want to leave with our viewers?
what I want people to understand is that we all are one collective consciousness. And if the people unite and come together as one, we can recreate the earth world the way we see fit in a way that is prosperous, where everyone has all their basic needs met, where you don't have to be enslaved by a job and extorted through taxation and extorted by agents that work for foreign corporations known as the police. We can restructure everything, but we all have to come together as one and unify. It's the unity that when everyone comes together that we can accomplish great things. But if we're always divided by race, by religion, then it's very easy for us to be controlled. So it's really important that everyone unifies and starts forming communities. And as this awakening facilitates, there's going to be a lot of pushback. There's probably gonna be some more collapses in the economy, but all these things kind of have to happen. Like the old system has to crumble in order for us to rebuild the new system the way that we see fit as a collective consciousness, not as the way a small group of wealthy corporations see fit.
Thank you so much, Sean. And on behalf of myself and all those, you have quite a bit of followers. I think you have a million, probably millions if they weren't pulling your accounts down. I would like to say thank you because I know how much. Look, I'm a journalist and I don't have half the information you have, and I work like I am doing research all the time. I have a day job, but sometimes I have downtime there. I'm doing research, and I think to myself, I don't know how you do it because you are prolific. You're constantly throwing stuff out there that is fact-based, and you have the facts to support what you're saying. Hats off to you. That's a lot of work, and it's a lot of dedication and passion. We share that. I'm just not as brilliant as you are when it comes to doing the research. But thank you for bringing this to the planet. My hope is when we've all evolved and left the planet, your name will be mentioned in some history book because you've played such a big part in helping mankind to wake up. And thank you for that.
Thanks for having me on.
And thank you so much for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. I know lately my conversations have taken a very serious turn, and I believe that it's time for mankind to wake up to what's really going on in this world that we're living in, so that we can unite, like Sean says, because we are all one, and try to have and live a better life for everyone. Not some of us working our tails off and we still can't make two ends meet, while people who are sitting back committing heinous crimes and doing awful things are reaping the benefits of our labor. It's just wrong. And it's time for us as a nation and a world to right the wrongs. And I'll see you soon again with Sean. We'll be coming back with another hot topic. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.